Welcome. Good morning. Good morning. It's morning now, and we're preparing to talk with you and visit with you. Welcome to Mending Threads. This is your safe place and your stronghold for whole body wellness. Um, this morning, as we prepare and get ready for the upcoming holidays, we have with us Aswald Walker, who is associate pastor of the Shrine, works in the Urban Resource Center at Texas Southern and University of Houston in terms of African American studies, historian. So we have him visiting with us this morning as regular to talk about and bring us up on the topic of why holidays are important to wellness. And we want to talk about that from different vantage points. Good morning, Doc Walker, if I may call you that.
Good morning. How you doing, Dr. Lewis?
Just great, just great. So I was trying to see how you came up with that topic.
How I came up with the topic, the importance of holidays for our mental health. Uh, well, quite simply, a lot is said every year, and rightfully so, about the holiday blues, about the importance of realizing that though the holidays are generally a time of celebration and connection and community, family, for for some people, the holidays serve as a cruel reminder of an amplifier of their disconnection. So while folk are celebrating and gathering together in community and family and having a good time, there are a lot of people that feel their lack of relationships, their depression, their overwhelming feelings of loneliness. And those feelings are amplified during the holiday season, particularly during this holiday season, the whole Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's holiday season. The holiday blues are very real. During this particular season, every year, spousal abuse goes up, the
Mm-hmm.
suicide rate skyrockets, and so many more because people's lack of connection, uh, lack of a life that they see as worthy of even living, those negative feelings are amplified. So
Mm-hmm.
that side of holidays gets a lot of attention, and it should because that's critically important. But there's another side to holidays that I
Mm-hmm.
think doesn't get nearly the amount of attention, but is arguably just as important, and that's the importance of holidays to our mental health. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what we have to ask ourselves the question: what are holidays? Holidays are created by a people to celebrate certain values and principles that a people hold dear. So, anything that you want to celebrate, anything that is important to you, anything that you want to pass down, you have to celebrate it. When you celebrate that value, it gets passed down from one generation to another. When you lack those opportunities, or when you lack uh, I guess, the wherewithal to make opportunities to celebrate those values can get lost. Value transfer from one generation to another, uh, the transfer of principles that a people see as important to them. That is what gives us life. That is what allows us to celebrate our ancestors, to
Mm-hmm.
appreciate those who came before us. But we've got to. That's why um, any holiday that you can think of, darn near any holiday you can think of, that's why that holiday was created. Now, for Black people, and I have to say, I'm taking so much of what I'm sharing today uh, from so much that I learned from the presiding bishop of the Shrines of the Black Madonna, um, Bishop Kamathi Nelson, because he talks about this all the time about the importance of holidays, holidays, holidays. So if holidays celebrate values and principles that are critical to the health and well-being of a people, then what state are Black people in when there are no holidays that are specifically specifically for Black people, celebrating the values that we hold dear, celebrating the principles that are critical to our lives. That
Mm,
that then means that we are missing a golden opportunity to pass down critical values. And so for us, that's one of the reasons why Dr. Maulana Karinga created Kwanzaa,
mhm,
because from Dr. Karinga's perspective, the biggest issue facing Black people wasn't um, racism or white supremacy or issues, from other people's perspective, issues of drugs, this, that, or the other. The biggest issue for Black people was a cultural issue. He contended that Black people were celebrating negative aspects of our culture and that were killing us, but we're forgetting the positive aspects of our culture that had given us life for eons and generations and generations. And so he created Kwanzaa
mhm,
specifically to celebrate those values. In fact, Kwanzaa is founded on the Nguzo Saba, the seven principles: Umoja, unity; Kujusagalia, self-determination; Ujima, collective work and responsibility; Ujima, cooperative economics; Nia, purpose; Kumba, creativity; and Imani, faith. And so he was just very intentional. These are values that have been critical to all that we have done as a people for generations and for eons. But the only way we make them important in our daily lives moving forward, you got to celebrate it. And
yes.
so Black folk, we celebrate the 4th of July and Martin Luther King Day. We um, uh, um, every other holiday that's on the calendar, but we have to really question, why are there no holidays specifically for us? And that's not an issue where we point fingers at the
Mm,
federal government for not declaring a holiday. That's an issue where we have to point the finger back at ourselves. Why haven't we created this holiday? I know when I was starting out in the working world, um, I would always take um, May 19th off. I made Malcolm X Day a holiday for myself.
mhm,
It wasn't declared by anyone else. I declared it for myself because I wanted to honor that brother's commitment to family, community, to Black people and the world. And so I would take that day off. But then, how do we use the holidays that there are? Like Juneteenth is an opportunity for us to celebrate specific values critical to us.
mhm.
Martin Luther King Day, um, Marcus Garvey Day, August 18th, celebrating the day of his birth. There are all sorts of days that we can take and celebrate values critical to us. Memorial Day, since we were the ones that created that holiday in the first place.
So I wanted
Uh,
to say something on that because, in
Go
terms
ahead.
of setting up some traditions, is what you're speaking about. So
Mm-hmm.
many people, it started when I was living in another state on the East Coast. We started a tradition through the Black psychologists of leaving our tree up if we were going to have a tree, and we would
Mm-hmm.
celebrate it differently. We would leave it up until January the 16th. And then
Mm-hmm.
we would take so the tree would stay up, and we would put little bags all around the tree. Well, I did
Mm-hmm.
not know that the little bags all around the tree actually came from Africa and I think they said China or somewhere. So it was a combination, and you put little things in the little bags in terms of the ancestors.
Yeah.
And so, but you leave your tree up until then in the honor of King, during that time,
Mm.
if we were going to do that. So don't take it down, and you leave your lights on. You turn your lights on the night before, and so everybody would just leave their lights on all over the community. Hmm.
But what you're saying is you did something to celebrate that allowed you to focus on a
Yes,
particular
what it
person,
was. Yes,
values, principles, things
yes.
important to you, things important to your
Hmm.
group. That's why holidays are critical to our mental health, critical to every aspect of our holistic health. Um, you talk about like the Christmas lights. If you look at the different aspects of Christmas, they all have a meaning behind them. Now, many people may not know those meanings, but
Mhm.
there was a specific meaning behind it. Like the lights symbolized, the old tradition of putting a light in your window to let the Savior know that this was a place that was open to
Mhm.
accepting and receiving the Savior. The evergreen tree is a symbol of eternal life. Um, Although, I can go through like a hundred more
Symbolism.
just for
Mhm.
Christmas alone. But the point is that all the things and traditions that are associated with Christmas and other holidays were done to celebrate specific values. And so we've got to ask ourselves, what are the values that we need celebrated? What are the values
Mhm.
that we want passed down to our children? I've often said that I hope and pray that all the children of people who supported Donald Trump, that their children grow up to have the same values that he has. Just so those parents have to deal with someone who is totally disrespectful, someone
Mhm.
who is totally intellectually non-curious, someone who is violent. They want to celebrate this madman. So okay, but I hope you have some children that are just like that. But we're talking about value. That may not be nice, but
Mhm.
anyway, we're talking
So,
about
so I
value.
had this little exercise I wanted you to do this morning.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm going to say something, and I want the audience to really think about it too.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is showing why holidays are important. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you this. So, if I say love, what symbol or what would come to mind for you?
Family.
Okay, then. And what person would you bring from the past?
What do you mean? What I
What
think?
person do you think of in the past when you think from the past?
Oh, okay. I would say my mother.
Okay, then.
Hmm.
So I'm going to say New Year's. What image comes up in your mind when you say New Year's?
Um, the first thing was just celebration. People celebrating together.
Okay, so maybe you see hands going up or holding hands or something like that. Who would you put in that mix for New Year's? Who are you putting would people celebrate? Who would you like? Who would be in there? Who do you see in there?
The first person I thought of was just Dr. King because his birthday is in
Hmm.
January, and like in our church tradition, and in our church calendar, the Shrines of the Black Madonna, um, January kicks off the season of renewal, new
Renew.
life, new hope, new opportunity. So all that to me is all mixed together.
Uh-huh. So togetherness, words like togetherness. So in other words, the thing is that we all have these images. If we name the words, we would all have some same similar images, and we would
Hmm.
all have based on, I was just showing that what you were saying is true,
Yeah,
accurate. That we
yeah,
walk
yeah.
around with these images, and if we say Independence Day, if we say whatever day it is. We have a person, people,
Hmm.
we have an image, and then so you were saying it's up to us to create an image.
It is.
So mhm,
We have to be way more intentional,
mhm,
and we have to like I said, we have to ask ourselves, where are our holy days, which is where the word holiday comes from. The
right.
days that are holy to us, they're holy because they're celebrating values and principles that have allowed us to get over, that have brought us this far by faith, that while we're traveling up the rough side of the mountain, it's those values and principles that allow us to keep on moving, to keep marching on, and to not give up, to see ourselves in difficult situations with the Red Sea in front of us and mountains on the right and left, and Pharaoh's army coming behind us, but not giving up because we have the value and principle of faith that tells us we can step out into the Red Sea, and wherever we step, God is going to make a way and the waters will part so that we can continue moving to the promised land that God wants for
Mhm.
us. But all those we have to be intentional, intentional, intentional. And so with Martin Luther King Day, which is slowly becoming Martin Luther King weekend, that is a powerful opportunity for Black people to be way more intentional than we are to celebrate values that we attach, that we affix to Dr. King. So let's have the conversation. What values um, did he exude that we feel worthy of celebration? Well, he spoke truth to power. He did commitment. He's on the road. I'm going all over the world, trying to wake people up to their worth and value and get them to become a
Mhm.
part of a movement while his family is back at home receiving death threats and um, a lack of money that they had. They were not big ball and shot calling, but he
Mhm.
was so committed to this calling that he felt God placed on his life that he was willing to go through that, willing to fight through depression,
Mhm.
um, to stand up against those individuals, even loved ones who are telling him to shut up and be quiet. Um, so those are just some of the values that he exuded. So how can we use Martin Luther King Day and weekend to celebrate those values of courage, of discipline, of heart, of grit, um,
Of commitment and resilience.
commit.
Mhm.
Exactly, exactly. Black History Month, African American History Month. How can we use that month to celebrate values that we find important, that will allow our people to find healing, whether those values be community, whether they be, like you say,
Mhm.
resilience, or whether they be courage. One of the things that my students are always, African American Studies class students are always blown away with, is the history of African and Black resistance to oppression, because it's not taught in school
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
it, we were fighting back from enslavement from day one, and we never stopped fighting back. There's
Mhm.
a gazillion examples. So this spirit of recognizing our worth and value and the courage to stand up and fight to reclaim it, we got to celebrate that. And so there are holidays that are on the books that are opportunities for us to claim for ourselves instead of just using, holidays as an opportunity to, day off work, eat some good
Yes.
food,
Mhm.
and all that's fine. But what are the values that we want to pass down?
Mhm.
Because we're not passing down values that are critical to the health of a people. We're not going to be a people for much longer.
So they call that in mental health, they call that priming.
Mm,
Like getting ready because they're priming the brain to rewire the brain. And so when you read up on it, whatever happens, like holidays are actually building tissue in the brain
mm,
around that. That's why those memories hold.
mm.
So it's more to it than that because it connects to the emotions, as you said, the religion too. So
Yeah.
if we would look at it that we were really helping our children or those in the future really retain an understanding. We have broken tradition, we've broken looking at the meaning of it. And so now our children have difficulty holding attention and focus.
And
It's,
that
yeah.
that's so beautiful, doctor. That is so
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. And you made me think of the Christmas season, because oftentimes we think of Christmas as a holiday, but it's really a part of a holy season, a holiday season, the season of
Mm-hmm.
Advent, which the word Advent itself means the coming, where we are expecting God to come in to our lives. We are expecting the visitation of the Holy Spirit. And so, what do we do to prepare for Christmas? Well, we decorate, we put up lights, we play particular songs, we set up parties and fellowships. We do all these things, but each and it, we buy gifts or make gifts for one another. Each one of these things is putting our minds, is priming. I love the word that you
Mm-hmm.
use,
Mm-hmm.
priming ourselves for a certain experience. It's priming ourselves to celebrate certain values. And so people wonder why where there's more of an openness in humanity during the holiday season. It's because we we actively prime ourselves. We don't even realize that that's what we're doing when we go out and we buy a tree, and then we put up
Mhm.
the decorations, and then we put up the wreath, which is a symbol of victory. Victory over death, victory over depression, victory over. We
Mhm.
each one of these steps is priming us, and so we are making the actual experience that we're waiting for. It's not something that just appears. We actually make that experience. We make the experience of joy and celebration and glad tidings, so to speak.
So let me tell you one of the traditions. Of course, we would always have a big family gathering on a Sunday generally, but during the holiday for sure, my
Hmm.
father would sit at the head of the table, and everybody would be there. And so I didn't understand the meaning of it then. And he would break out the Bible. And when we knew that if he just didn't say a prayer and he broke the Bible out, it meant that our food may get cold. And so he was he would read, he would read. And so, but one of the things that he did that I appreciate, that when he read scripture from the Bible,
Hmm.
he would then tell a story.
Mm.
He had a different story every Christmas for many, many years about how the different scriptures related to somebody in our family or our ancestors in some kind of way. So we attach these memories to this. So right now, I make sure that I tell the story of him breaking the Bible out and how he reads it, and I share that, and
Yeah.
other members of my family generally share that. You see, and so now I notice the little ones, they go like, "Are you going to get the Bible? What story are you going to tell?" You see, so
They
they
start looking for it.
yeah, they start looking for, and so you mentioned something just then that brought it to me is expectation.
Yeah.
So during the holidays, expectations are so important. If I guess, especially if we don't go overboard in the opposite direction
Yeah.
of choosing some values that may be difficult for us.
And so what I'm saying or what I'm suggesting is um, at least two things. Number one, that as a people, we use the holidays that are already there for the purposes of celebrating values that are important
Mhm,
to us as a people.
mhm,
Because we're always going to be celebrating this, that, or the other. That's already on the calendar. How can we use that to grow stronger as individuals, but also as a people? The second thing I would say is, so better utilizing Juneteenth, better utilizing MLK Day, better utilizing Black History Month, Labor Day. But what I'm also saying is we have to create our own holidays. Every
mhm,
holiday that is celebrated was created by someone. They didn't just fall out of the sky. They were created by a particular person or people to celebrate values and principles to keep a particular people strong and healthy and moving forward. So, what holidays are there out there that we can create? I mentioned earlier Marcus Garvey Day or Malcolm
mhm,
X Day. There's so many Black Women Day month year. There's so many things that uh, we can do that's worthy of celebration. Um, Ancestral Veneration Day. Um,
mhm.
but what values do we need to celebrate that will allow us to grow stronger as a people? And that's one of the reasons why I think Kwanzaa is so important. It's underutilized because it's really set up to do all those things. Um,
Mhm.
as Dr. Karinga says, unity is something that's a value that, that we need. Self determination, grit, that's a value that we need. This idea of collective work. We all have a
Yes.
responsibility, not just to ourselves, but to each
Mhm.
other. Cooperative economics, being
Yes.
able to buy black and to support one another, celebrating purpose. African people believe that you and I and every other human being that's ever been born was given a divine purpose by the Almighty before we were even born, and that it's
Mhm.
our responsibility and the responsibility of the community in which we were born to discover what that purpose is and then to live it. So celebrating purpose is important. Creativity, um, the creativity of your hairstyle, the creativity of the show, the creativity that allows you to take one concept, one intellectual concept, and match it with another, which that's what people call intelligence, right? When you can take one piece of knowledge and tie it to a new situation. That's creativity. Also, just our artistic creativity and faith. These are things that have stood the test of time and have proven themselves to help our people um, make a way when there wasn't a way. And
Yes.
so Kwanzaa does it, but we need to be celebrating these values all the
And I
time.
think I
Holidays
think
do that.
I think even just in terms of looking at the word unity,
Hmm.
many people growing up in America that I've come in contact with have no idea of how to think collective or to even how to bring unity to their environment or to their family.
Not
You
even how, but why?
why?
Like unity
Yes.
is not even a concept that a lot of people are. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and you have which is getting worse and worse by the day, I might add. And you have
Hmm.
people that are still arguing whether or not they should be required to wear a mask. The mask, it protects you, but it's actually to help protect other people. But you've got to be thinking about and caring about the health and well-being of someone besides your nary behind
Yes.
to put it on. Because if you are, there would be nothing stopping you. You wouldn't allow that issue to be politicized. You just put on the mask because you say, hey, man, these people around me, they deserve life like I deserve life. I don't want to be responsible for. So, a friend of mine, if you don't mind me sharing this,
No.
a friend of mine, her friend was mourning the death of her grandmother. She lost her life due to COVID-19. Uh, but she was also mourning the fact that it was her teenage son who she probably contracted it from. He wanted to go out, so
Hmm.
hang out, just go out, hang out with friends. He went, hung out.
Yes.
He
Mhm.
contracted the virus. He got better. His grandmother, who lived with him, contracted the virus, and this, I think they said within a week she was dead. And so,
Shoot.
so the family is mourning that teenage young man has to live with the weight of that, you know.
Yes.
Um, but
They're
I'm,
not a
I'm
prize. As I drive down certain main streets here in the
mhm,
area,
mhm,
I'm observing that it's the young people on Fridays and Saturdays. They're out there. The music is blasting. They're eating on the balconies, and I think one third of them may have masks on. They have no idea, and so it's decision making from a self only from a self-centered point of view. And
mhm,
so I'm looking at it a little deeper. So then how did they get this self-centered point of view? They were allowed to have too much,
mhm,
without having to earn it, without
mhm,
having to see the connection and the significance that it has of those before you or around you. It was just that you got it. And so it's just for me. You see, and so we have to begin moving in a different direction when we're speaking to them,
mhm,
because and moving back and taking back some of those privileges when people don't show caring. So it's also responsibilities of the family members when we are aware of that. And I mean, I
mhm,
have some people like that in my family. I
mhm,
really do. And the history shows that they are that way because they were given that somewhere by extended family members. And so now they feel a possession. They feel like they need to possess or have what they say they want to have in the manner in which they want to have it without respect to other people. So our teaching in terms of culture building. We're right now is letting us know that we need to move in a family oriented direction to make these changes, just like you told that story.
Yeah, yeah,
That was an
but
important story.
yeah, but what you said just reminded me of the importance of holidays to our health and well being.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the season of Advent, you are expected to prepare a way for the Lord. So you do certain things so that you get a certain result, but you recognize that your actions are critical to accessing that thing that you want. It doesn't just happen if you sit back and do nothing, which is what you said. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a problem is when you just sit back and expect things to happen and you feel no specific responsibility to make that thing happen. Um, Labor Day, one of the reasons why Labor Day was created was to celebrate uh, people's willingness to celebrate workers, to celebrate those people who uh, do the hard work to put food on the table, to pay bills. So in celebrating that, you're celebrating the values of hard work. You're celebrating the value of determination and consistency. Um, Memorial Day. I mentioned earlier we need a day to for ancestor veneration. Memorial Day is already right there, created by us,
Mm-hmm.
created by Black folk who are celebrating Black soldiers who lost their lives so that Black people could be freed from enslavement. Black people created that holiday celebrating those who were ancestors, those who had gone on. That's the perfect opportunity for us to celebrate that. And what values does that teach? It teaches us that the world is bigger than just myself, my issues, and my little wants and needs. It celebrates the fact that we share a sacred trust with those who had gone before and those who will come after. So the people who are not here now, they made sacrifices so that I could be here, so that I could, live and do and etc. And so if I'm celebrating that, then I recognize, hey, I got that same responsibility. I've got to use my life in a way that's going to make it better for those who come after
Mm-hmm.
me. My life is a gift. In fact, my life is not my own. I'm supposed to use it to lift up and celebrate the creator, um, and do those things that the creator wants,
Mm-hmm.
my purpose. I'm supposed to be living my
Mm-hmm.
purpose. And if I'm doing that, I'm going to make this world. But you're celebrating values and you're passing those values on.
Mm-hmm.
I love it when you said priming, priming, priming. That's
Yes,
really what
yes.
we're doing.
And so right now, what you're talking about, there's a lot of research and practice. They're saying that practice, we have to come up with more, like you're saying, visible ways that we're
Yeah.
practicing what we believe and also how we increase memory. So, therefore, when we're practicing something, we can't just go through the practice. We have to be able to say what that is for us and what the meaning is for our family or for our group or whatever, what it really means, so that the values, they had some research that I was sharing just before the show came on with the producer. And it was talking about when people are adopted or taken away from their host, from their main culture or family, say if they're adopted out of into a different culture,
Hmm.
what happens is that that person truly has a internal sense of loss that they can't explain.
Hmm.
And I was reading one article. I wished I could remember who wrote it. I'm gonna find that. And it was saying that if you pay attention to those children, they're constantly approval seeking. You know, if they've
Hmm.
been out before they doing it, they don't have their own sense of what the values are, and it seems like they just can't attach to the sense of value. And so they're constantly and it's affecting their motor behavior. And so I've begun to pay attention, and you'll see them. They're kind of like stumbling, or they don't have a real grasp on standing still and walking. And so there's some neurological changes around values. Values, practicing values give us what they call steadfastness,
Hmm.
expectation of the future, what to do, meaning, and then we can make decisions. We can really make a standard. We don't have
Hmm.
to depend on that very moment for someone to say what it means,
Yeah.
because we have
Yeah.
enough threads and fiber um, in there to what it means. So I was just fascinated by the adoption information that I read, that you're constantly, and that was true. I went through a lot of video, and that was so true. They even
Mhm.
had one where a family adopted a little African American boy, and they had it on during the presidential um, campaigning,
No. Hmm.
and it showed very much just what the research showed. And this little boy going off stage was just stumbling. He couldn't get it. And he was just looking up. Just he couldn't. He was just trying to see every step. Am I doing this? Because I don't really know what this mean. I guess he was about 8 or 10. In terms of developmental meaning and that. So that's just most interesting. So that says that right now, our children, the children that we're around, all cultures, need to be appreciated for what they are. And we need to understand, like I have a lot of Hispanic patients,
Hmm.
and so they're talking to me about the quinceañera, like 14,
Quinceañera, the
quinceañera, yes.
15th, the 15th. Yeah.
Yes, and so they bring me videos and we talk about and how important that is, that they're moving toward adulthood. They're in this thing where you have to start teaching them certain things.
Hmm.
So now that marks what should have come before and what should come afterward. You see,
Yeah.
and the clothing, the festival, and how it brings family together. And so then they start telling their family stories.
Celebration is important. Celebrate. I
Yes.
mean, that's a whole show and a whole sermon in and of itself. The importance of celebration. But why are we celebrating? We're celebrating values. And why have I been harping on this issue of values, values, values? Because individuals become a people when they share values, when they
Yeah.
hold things in common. They have common ideas, beliefs,
Mhm.
attitudes, and principles that are important to them. That's, I mean,
Mhm.
you go to in any barbershop, and I'm assuming any beauty shop, and black folk are sitting back talking about the issues and problems that are facing. And invariably, someone's gonna say, "Well, we just need to unify. We need to unify." Well, people don't unify just because of unity. They come together because they share values. They hold things in common. This is important to us. Freedom is important to us. Education is important to us. Family
Mhm.
relation, healthy family relationships are important to us. Whatever those
Mhm.
values and principles are, that's the thing that holds us together. In
Mhm.
fact, when you hold those things in common, you will be willing to hang out and work with people that you may not even like or get along with, but you realize I need you, you need me, we need each other because we hold on to these
Mhm.
values that are going to make us as a people, a family, a community stronger. So
Mhm.
it's those values, and how do we find those values? How do we pass them on? One of the most powerful ways is celebrating holidays. So we got to use the holidays that are there, and
Mhm.
just think about, you said it, the organization that you were a part of sat down and thought about how can we celebrate these particular values so that we can pass them down. Well, that's what we all have to do. We got to look at
Mhm.
the holidays that are there, figure out how we can use them to pass down values important to our people, and then have the boldness, the audacity, and the courage to create our own
Mhm.
holidays. We don't have to
Mhm.
sit back and wait for someone else to declare our
Mhm.
holidays. That's not how holidays work. You
Mhm.
declare the thing yourself, and you make it happen.
Our Imani Faith Health Initiative is connecting Christmas with, you just told me, um, Kwanzaa.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're showing the gifts and cultures how it's come over, and we're doing a gift giving little get together for youth virtually.
Hmm.
And then right after that, then we're going to have the Kwanzaa virtually. Okay, so that they can learn and see the meaning is practiced when we with with the thread that runs through the meaning is what we
Mhm.
want them to have in their behaviors, you see. And so they're going to do storytelling, they're going to do a little drama, they're going to have puppets, they're going to do this. And so I'm going to be announcing it to everybody. But the main thing you mentioned was the community connect. The whole purpose of it is to lock arms and provide community connect so that people can explain and share, like in the barbershop or a venue, begin to share like their commitment, a sense of compute, their attitudes about different things and whatever. But you can have this, but we're just asking you to come and share your gifts and connect so
Yeah,
that we can all be a family or a group about a shared theme of togetherness and groupness and health together, taking care of the other person. You know,
yeah.
kind of reclaiming some of the old values that we're speaking about. Hmm.
Reclaiming some of the old values, and that just put me in the mind of Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving, the way it was created, the stories around Thanksgiving here in the United States was created to celebrate a white supremacist view of the world. Um, and so a lot of people are waking up to the fact that we're really talking about a genocide against those who are native to this land. But in so doing, some people say, well, we just need to throw Thanksgiving out. But I would contend that's the last thing we need to do. We need to recognize how people have used it to celebrate the values that they find important, uh, dominance, domineering, uh, oppression. They want to celebrate that because that's important to them. But Thanksgiving, that's been a part of people of color since people of color have been breathing. Uh, Thanksgiving is really just a festival of the first fruits. Every people of color on the planet have celebrated the festival of the first fruits, because what you are celebrating is not only your hard work of planting crops and keeping them watered and all that, but you're also celebrating your relationship with the earth and your relationship with God. You are thanking the Almighty that your work was uh, produce something that you could eat,
Hmm.
sustenance, so that you
Hmm.
can continue to grow. And so, when it's time to harvest, you gather the food together, and there is a community celebration, celebrating all these values, celebrating our connection to
Yes.
God, our connection to our ancestors, our connection to each other, and the hard work that is necessary to make life and to keep life moving forward. So these celebrations of first fruits, which is really what Kwanzaa is all about as well, a
Hmm.
festival of the first fruits is important. Hell, the season of Pentecost, I mean, if you're a Christian, the season of Pentecost was born during the Hebrews, literally in the Bible. It was their festival of the first fruits. They were coming together as a people for their celebration, which is just another clue that, we're talking about an African people in the Bible, but that's a whole nother story, a whole nother show. But they were coming together like people of color, Native Americans, Asians, people in Central and South America, and of course, the motherland, Africa. Festival of the first fruits, the importance of being thankful, the importance of being grateful. There's a power in being grateful. There's a power in thanks.
Hmm.
There's a power in giving thanks, a power in thanksgiving. So let's not throw out that long-standing tradition, uh, and all the values that are attached to it, simply because some group of people wanted to bastardize it and use it for themselves. But that's what people do. They're going to use holidays for their own means. We need to do the same.
Hmm. Also, um, it's demonstrated that when we actually practice that and we
Mhm.
begin to attach and not expect everything to be um, positive, perfect, and whatever. But if we start attaching memories of persons from our past in a fond manner and begin putting them all around, what it says is that depression will be momentary.
Mm.
Because when you introduce positive images to the present that come from the past and give it meaning in the present, Then all
Wow.
of a sudden, yes, then depression subsides because depression comes from absence. You
Mm,
see, it comes from void, it comes from not having and feelings of not having and fear of not having, all of those emotions around that and thoughts. So, our goal is, and it has been my goal for sure, is to help people see that they are choosing with when they don't know it because they're
mm,
not using what it is that they could use. And when we start introducing, it lets them know how empowered they are. And
yeah.
when they begin to feel empowered with everything that they've come from, there is no reason to feel. And when they know that, then their expectations change about the depression. Where did that come from? How did I get that way? You see, now they're in a position to make a move. You see, the door is opening.
What you just said
Mhm.
reminded me. So, in my African American Studies class on day one, I talk about epistemic violence, the purposeful removal of a particular group's contributions to history. And so basically whitewashing history, right? Um,
Mhm.
and that is the concept that stands out in the minds of students more than any other. No matter how much I teach for the rest of the semester, that epistemic violence, that's the point that stays
Mhm.
there. And I guess
Mhm.
it's because of what you just said, because really
Yes.
what we're saying is we are waking up to the fact that, wait a minute, there has been a purposeful absence of people that look like me when folk are telling history. And so now I am open. And it's like their eyes are wide and they have new life and energy because now they're seeing things in a different way and they're
Mhm.
discovering that even though the history books say that you weren't there, uh,
Mhm.
when you dig a little deeper, you find out not only were you there, but you were the one that created the there. You were the one that
Yes.
found that thing in the first place.
Right. And if you really wanted to weaken, and this is what parents don't understand, and might I say, I'm glad that some of our pastors are beginning to do that because pastors, beauticians, and barbers are those persons who are interfacing with individual on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And to begin to see that there is something around us, a systemic thing of removing not only that they're not, but removing them systematically. You can take a person. I'm trying to like let's just say Bill Cosby.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's just take that because we had a big discussion on that. I'm not going to say what he did and what he didn't do, but I do realize that it's pervasive everywhere, and we probably need to find a way to intervention if they were partying or whatever they were doing. But there's a systematic method to remove anyone who seems to have a leadership in the African American and other communities. And you must defame their character. And then there's a participation. And speaking of values and depression and how that is that um, in other words, you must take away those who lead like Martin Luther King. You must defame those who introduce a family value.
Mm-hmm.
See, you have to remove that so that there's nothing to hold on to bring over because the key to sustain is the memory. Remember the
Yeah.
hippocampus, right? It sustains the memory and creates something positive that can interact with obstacles. And
Yeah.
so there's a whole system of now this is just not you can read it. I mean, even when you go into how to create a slave and read that, you'll see. And then what you have to do is to find someone from their community on a regular basis
Mm-hmm.
to support what it is, a systematic thing, so that they can raise one step on the ladder. Now that
Yeah.
there, I'm writing about it now
Yeah.
because it's a way to you mentioned epistem. So here's what I want to say. So then the thing is you must find someone who wants to step up, has demonstrated the behavior of wanting to step up, and you must give them just a little bit more money or
Mm.
opportunity than they could earn anywhere else. be it the city, the state, or whatever, because they could go nowhere else and make $10 more an hour or
Right.
$15, whatever it is. They can't go because of their educational level, because of whatever. Okay. Now they're beholding. Okay. And
Mhm.
they want to step up. And you have given them this opportunity, which is part of that. Now, if we're not teaching our children how to hold on during a holiday season, transition, change, and how to see stuff, create a value of resistance, the commitment to sustain, and how to see a whole of something, then they
Yeah.
have nothing. And this is what I'm finding: children that are cutting themselves or whatever, they have little to hold on to. And the pain is so much that they must do something to create more pain on the outside to sustain the internal pain. This
Mm.
is how they're describing it.
Hmm.
So it's beholden to us to look at this holiday season that's coming up. The reason for so much anger is we're reaching out for an expectation that's given to us or that's around us that may not be something that we want. So how can we create it from within and what's around us by
Yeah.
connecting with other people who would help us through this? You see.
And when you were talking about uh, the taking out or the purposeful removal of particular people from our community, I thought back to the FBI's counterintelligence program of the 1960s and 70s, COINTELPRO, led by J. Edgar Hoover, and that the whole purpose of that was to undermine the Black movement, but also the Chicano movement, the Native American movement, the anti-war movement, all those movements. But the number one target was the civil rights and the Black Power movement, and their whole point was to take out leaders, whether you discredit them, whether you jail them, or whether you literally assassinate them. And in their documents that you can Google right now, they say we need to look out for this person because we need to make sure that there's not another Black Messiah that rises up, someone who will inspire the masses. Um, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's disconcerting. But what I take, what I find joy and hope in, is that with all that has been thrown our way, we've always had uh, a remnant that was willing to see through that madness and celebrate the
Mm-hmm.
values and
Yes.
live the values that
Mm-hmm.
we need to survive. We just need to do a better job of magnifying those values because it's those values that um so I'll just say this because I know we're running out of time and I don't remember the the brother's name, but you always hear people talking about we're suffering from low self-esteem, low this, low self-esteem. He, from his research, he said Black people don't suffer from low self-esteem. We suffer from placing our esteem in the wrong place. So we find esteem in
Mm-hmm.
doing values that are killing our community. We find esteem
Mm-hmm.
in actions in things that are detrimental to our health. What we need to do is not low self-esteem. We got self-esteem off the charts, but it's off the charts for the wrong reason. So what we're saying with values is we need to be able to celebrate those values that are important to us as a people, and that's where
Mm-hmm.
we find our esteem. So we begin to celebrate people who exhibit grit. We celebrate people who exhibit resilience, who exhibit
Yes.
kindness and
Yes.
compassion and
Yes.
courage and a willingness to sacrifice and invest in our people and our family and our communities.
Well, well said. Well said. Well, thank you so much today. Now, look, we're coming out of this knowing that, and I'm hoping that our audience can hear. We've talked about a lot, but the thing is to come out of this with recognizing some values for your family and for your community and your culture, demonstrating it and practicing it in your home, and identify when you speak, and then began to look at healing through connecting with other people in your community and develop a whole new way of thinking or reinforce the way you have that you are currently thinking to begin joining with other people. See, in other words, in thought. a collectiveness and a belief that you have. And then that will take us to our wellness, which says that then we can sustain and begin to practice that and transfer that to younger people. So we are in a position of connecting in a meaningful way the past to the present to the future. And so that's where we are. So I want to thank you for being with us today. And I do want to say I will have an announcement that we have Mending Threads is hosting the cultural competence, and um, there's a program where we're going to be looking at how to use it to coach other people through mental health difficulties. Please, I want you to sign up. If you don't make this class, please sign up on our website for the next class coming up. And so if you're a leader, a pastor, a beautician, a barber, or someone in the community interfacing with families or individuals, other therapists, please sign up so that we can do our community connect. And what we're calling for is locking arms for wellness and healing within our community. Okay, you'll get an email from us, most of you.
And so
If you sign up.
when do these classes and workshops begin? And
Well,
is it a
one is
5 week?
beginning. One is beginning this week. You can sign up wrc-houston.com. That's wrc-houston.com, or you can email your interest to ips.health1, the number one, at gmail.com.
And
And
what day, what time?
that the classes are starting. The
Hmm.
class is going to start this week. They're sending out the classes. It's going to be online and discussion. The discussions is going to be at 7 p.m. starting 8 o'clock on this next Tuesday on the 8th at 7 p.m. And you can get your link this week. You must sign up today, I think, or tomorrow. Wednesday was to Wednesday. And so you can get your link. And then we'll be coming together to discuss the information. And we'll have separate information going out for cultural competence as soon as this is completed. And then you'll be able to take a quiz online, but we'll also be discussing that information. You'll get handouts to read online.
So Tuesday, December the 8th is
It
when the
started, it's starting the discussion, yes.
okay.
Okay, and so we'll be ready. Think of it like this. Please connect with us so we can lock arms for wellness. We want to decrease the illnesses in our community, the violence, and we have programs that we're instituting throughout Houston and other places. We even have people in Trinidad and Philadelphia and some other people who have called because they want to develop a pod, and we
One
can
other
do that. Hmm.
one other question. So if someone is listening to this, where do they go to find out more information and sign up? Can you say that one more time?
wrc-houston.com. You can go on there. You can call 281-381-2276. And if we don't get to you exactly then, leave your name and number. We will call you back, give you information. And you can also email ips.health1 at gmail.com, and we will email you information. Wherever you are, we want to do this for our healing everywhere. And we have been blessed to have scholarships available for each person. So instead of paying thousands of dollars for this training and getting ready for the community, the person only has to pay a minimum of $150 donation for everything.
Mhm.
Okay, and all the follow up and all of the assistance to help you help people in your community. That's all it is. Okay, everything else is a giving. Okay, thank you. Giving to come together. Thank you. I want to say this is to renew your beliefs, rebuild your faith, and reconnect families and friends. For it's not the circumstances that we meet, it is the manner in which we respond that determines health, happiness, and success. And I'll see you on next week, same time, same place, God willing. Okay, thank you.